Ladies and gents, welcome back. It is forest fire season in Canada, and we are now seeing record numbers of forest fires across the country. And the question today for a lot of people is, well, are we seeing this because of climate change, or are we seeing this because of climate activism? And well, definitions first. Let's get into this. Eco-terrorism is the word of the day. The action of causing deliberate environmental damage in order to further political ends. Why do we get here? Well, let's all start with just a short little while ago when political leaders in the country decided to go against some of the political climate agenda pushed forward by the federal government. Atlantic premiers joined climate agenda pushback. The premiers must think Trudeau is wrong when it comes to climate agenda's impact on Canadians' bank accounts. All four Atlantic province premiers have denounced the Trudeau Liberals' climate agenda, saying that the timeline is too fast, taxes are too high, and inflation is out of control. Well, that was the wrong political move, evidently, because not too long after, feds are warning we're on the track to being the worst fire season ever seen in Canada. This is from, of course, CTV News. Canada's emergency preparedness minister says images of wildfires burning across the country are some of the most severe ever witnessed in Canada, and current forecasts for the next few months indicate the potential, this is my little Freudian slip of the day, potential for continued higher than normal fire activity. Well, of course, and this is the rhetoric we're hearing from the Liberal Party, and of course, it's a lot of fear. Be afraid, be very afraid. This is all gonna happen because of climate change.
I came to Ottawa this morning from my home province of Nova Scotia, where our communities are literally on fire. Thousands upon thousands of families have been displaced from their homes. Hundreds are watching as their homes may be turned into ashes. 8 months ago, Hurricane Fiona damaged our communities beyond measure, displacing not just homes, but sweeping people out to sea in some instances. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are peddling policies that they know will increase the level of pollution that is causing these severe weather events.
Okay, so this is a direct causation, he's saying. So forest fires in Fiona were directly causal because of climate change. Now, there are carbon taxes that were put in place to protect, I guess, Canadians. None of that money went to any of the victims of Fiona. In fact, the government of Canada only said that they would match individuals' donations to help out the victims of Fiona at the time, unbelievably. But is there a causal link between climate change and the forest fires? Well, there is causal links between the forest fires and something. Well, let's have a look. Kevin Pacitti on Twitter is saying, climate change, part 9, man charged with 6 counts of arson after series of fires this spring. Part 4 of climate change. RCMP says arson behind 29 Okanagan wildfires in the last 4 years. Climate change part 8. He's got a whole series on this. I'm sorry they're out of chronological order here, but police in Nova Scotia report 2 cases of arson in New Glasgow. Wow. Climate change part 10. Smoky Lake area man facing 23 counts of arson dating back to 2012. What else do we see? Climate change part 6. Kamloops woman accused of arson in multiple BC wildfires. These are all reported by mainstream outlets here. Climate change part 7. Man charged with arson in connection with nearly 30 fires across Saskatoon. Holy cow, it just keeps going on and on. Now, Bushels Per Acre saying here on Twitter, all of southeast Quebec catching fire at the same exact time. This is interesting. How do that many fires all start at the same time across an entire province? And here's a time lapse of the satellite imageries of this. How do so many fires all catch? They all light up all around the same time. It's amazing how this kind of thing is happening across Canada. Now, Dr. F. Enstein on Twitter saying climate change has a name, and it's Audrey Elaine Dunham. Well, here's the most recent one. RCMP charged Alberta woman with 32 counts of arson after spring wildfires. Now, it's interesting that the spring wildfires, what was the timing of that? Well, it just happened to coincide with an election in Alberta, one that was contentious between, well, the NDP and the UCP, the Conservative Party, of which the Conservative Party actually took the election at that time. But a 50-year-old woman from Glendon, Alta, has been charged in connection with a series of wildfires in central and northern Alberta this spring. In a news release issued Friday, the RCMP say Audrey Elaine Dunham has been charged with 32 counts of arson following an in-depth investigation into a series of suspicious wildfires in Bonneville and Lac La Biche areas. On the night of April 24th, officers from Bonneville RCMP Detachment, Alberta Agriculture and Forestries, and the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority were called to several wildfires northwest of Bonneville and east of Lac La Biche. An investigation determined the fires had been deliberately set, and police identified a suspect. A month earlier, on May 27th, 7 wildfires were reported near Highway 55 and Highway 881 in the MD of Bonneville. Police said a total of 19 wildfires had been started in the area over the course of a few hours. This is, of course, very, very suspicious. Of course, here's another article from Lakeland Today reporting on the same thing, for which Maxime Bernier tweeted out about this. I bet a good portion of the wildfires raging across the country were started by green terrorists who want to give their climate change campaigns a little boost. The far left are experts at inventing and creating crises then they can then exploit. Of course, RCMP charged Dunham with 32 counts of arson for multiple wildfires in Bonneville, Lac La Biche, I don't know how to pronounce that. She was convicted of 4 counts of mischief. As long as our judicial doesn't take arson seriously, we will continue to have climate activists torching our forests. And this is absolutely dangerous for a lot of people's livelihoods, people's homes. A lot of things are in the wake of this. And of course, nobody finds it odd that Canada experiences climate change differently. And here we have, a large amount of fires raging across Canada, very few happening in the United States. Why is it that that's happening? Do you think maybe it's because we have, by-elections and elections going on at the time? Who knows? Maybe that's just speculation, but it does seem like there's a whole lot of arson provably going on across the country. Now, here's Stephen Guilbeault, the Minister of the Environment and former Greenpeace eco-terrorist himself, saying this World Environment Day, with Canadians from coast to coast facing devastating wildfires, and the importance of Canada's national adaptation strategy for a stronger, more resilient future has never been clearer. Now, he did delete this tweet. He quickly deleted this, says Suzanne Sexton, but the internet never forgets. He calls them wildfires, but fails to mention the humans arrested for starting these fires. Arson is not climate change. Shame on folks who try to twist tragic fires caused by criminals to advance their own agenda. Now, of course, Stephen Guilbeault, a member of Greenpeace, not unfamiliar with creating crises himself. Of course, more of this. Mike Gibbs on Twitter saying Canada's on fire. In grade 6, I chose global warming for my science project. This would have been in 1991. I read the graphic descriptions from scientists explaining what life will look like a decade by decade. I try to imagine myself in that world. It's not happening. It's happening. And it was bang on. Well, sorry, but global warming is causing people to commit arson? Is this the conclusion here? Of course not. Of course not. Now, the Financial Post released this article here talking about, well, are we actually to blame for even any of this stuff here in Canada? It's funny how so much of this is happening in Canada when we are probably carbon neutral already. Canada has Canada may already be carbon neutral. So why are we keeping it a secret? Conservative estimate of Canada's existing carbon absorption capacity indicates we could already be absorbing 20 to 30% more CO2 than we emit. That would make us not even net zero already, but net negative. The answer comes from the most recent report of the Global Carbon Project, which states that global human introduced CO2 emissions were 36 billion tons. Of that, 36% stayed in the atmosphere, 27% was absorbed by water, and 37% was absorbed by land. That's right, absorbed by land. Not all CO2 emitted by people stays in the atmosphere. Much of it returns to the earth, mainly through carbon absorption and sequestration of power, the power of plants, soil, and trees. A conservative estimate of Canada's existing carbon absorption capacity based on land area and the global carbon absorption coverage indicates that Canada could already be absorbing 20 to 30% more CO2 than we emit. Using the same calculation, the big four polluters of China, the US, the European Union, and India, which together are responsible for a whopping 60% of global CO2 emissions, release 10 times more CO2 than their combined land area absorbs. Canada doesn't seem very dirty. Now, do we? Well, so the article goes on to talk about where maybe some of the answers lie, and I think a lot of it is political. It goes into some other ones, but I'll leave a link in the description down below. You can read the article for yourself. But this is the situation that we're dealing with. We're dealing with an immense amount of forest fires in this country, which it seems there is a largely criminal element to this, not a political element as they would hopefully have you believe. But this is the situation that we're seeing now here in Canada. Now, I'd love to leave this one off to you guys. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about this whole scenario with arson around the country and it all being blamed on, well, the climate and something that you're doing, maybe driving your automobile, maybe just heating your home in the wintertime. This is all your fault, apparently, to the Liberal government. But hey, we need to move on and we need to start criminally charging people who are committing these acts and put them away for a good amount of time because of the damage that it causes not only to our environment, but to people's homes, livelihoods, and industry here in Canada. Anyway, I'll leave that one with you guys. Leave a comment in the comment section down below, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.